Well, good evening. Welcome to the School Board of St. Lucie County regular meeting, the tentative budget hearing 2023-24. It is 5:01 on the dot. We can go ahead and start this meeting as required by state law. Please stand, and we're going to say the Pledge of Allegiance and the Kids at Hope pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As an adult and treasure hunter, I am committed to search for all the talents, skills, and intelligence that exist in all children and youth. I believe all children are capable of success, no exceptions. Please be seated. At this time, I'm going to ask Chief Financial Officer Michelle Thomas to come up and give an overview of our millage, and this is required by state law. Thank you, Ms. Thomas. And then we'll open up the public hearing.
Good evening, Chair Ingersoll, board members, Superintendent Dr. Prince. This is the tentative budget hearing, and we'll provide a brief overview of the tentative budget and millage rates. At the end of the presentation, we will vote to approve tentative millage rates. After millage rates are approved, we will vote to approve the tentative budget and resolutions, all three resolutions at one time. This slide shows the taxable value, millage, and tax collection revenue estimates at 100% and 96%. We budget at 96%, and last year we collected 96.5%. As a reminder, the board must levy the 3.1640 required local effort millage and the 1.0000 voted operating millage. The 0.7480 discretionary millage and 1.5000 capital operating millage are maximums. The only action the board could take would be to reduce those, and I do not recommend reducing. The total millage is 6.4120. The board does not have the authority to increase the millages as they are set by legislature, and it is our maximum millage for the 23-24 school year. This slide shows a history of the millage rates going back to fiscal year 2007 and 8. Over this time frame, our highest millage rate was in 2010-11 at 8.1770. This slide shows the break between the operating, capital, and voted millages, and where the legislature demanded a shift. Capital outlay shifted from 2 mills in 7-8 to 1.5 mills in 9-10. Beginning with the 1920 fiscal year, we have an additional 1 mill voted operating. This slide shows the average impact to annual taxes of homeowners in the county. We get this information from the property appraiser's office each year. The average taxable value in the county increased by approximately 15.7%. There's a reduction in the non-voted millage by 1.22%, and an increase in the annual taxes of the average homeowner by $140.49. This slide shows the taxable value history. The entire county's gross taxable value makes up the taxes that you will see on the next slide. This slide shows the gross tax collection history and excludes the voted 1 mill. I will show the impact of the 1 mill on the next slide. On this slide, you can see the impact that the additional voted 1 mill will have on our collections for 23-24, resulting in $41 million of additional revenue. This is the 5th year recognizing revenue from the 1 mill, as it was renewed in November 2022 for an additional 4 years as by law. The additional revenue generated from this 1 mill is used to recruit and retain qualified teachers, improve school security, improve mental health services, and fund other essential operations that preserve important school programs. As required by law, the 1 mill is proportionately shared with charter schools. Something to note is that tax collections and taxable values are not increasing at the same rate. From 22-23 to 23-24, the taxable value increases 18.16%, but the collections increase 16.6%. That is because the legislature mandates what the required local effort is, and they've capped all of our other millages. Looking back at 2007 and 8, we were collecting $185 million. For consistent comparison purposes, we exclude the additional voted 1 mill on this slide. We would be proposed to collect $221 million this year, so we are up $36.5 million compared to that benchmark year, and cumulatively $450.6 million in reduced tax burden to the property owners in the county. Incorporating the voted 1 mil, we are proposed to collect $262 million, and now over by $77.4 million compared to that benchmark year. But still, we are down cumulatively $299.5 million in reduced tax burden to the property owners. The rollback rate discussion is something we are required to talk about. Here's a table that helps explain it. In 22-23, the taxable value was $36 billion. The millage rate was 6.4790. That millage rate generated $233.5 million. The rollback rate is a calculated rate that will generate the exact same revenue using this year's net taxable value. The calculated rollback rate is 5.6954. So 5.6954 times the current taxable value generates $233.5 million. Since we have a proposed rate of 6.4120, which exceeds 5.6954, we have to compare those two and make a public statement that the proposed rate is 12.58% greater than the rollback rate. Here's a summary of the budget. This includes beginning reserves, revenues, appropriations, and ending reserves. Grand total of $1,014,699,404, which is amended throughout the year by official board action. Does anyone want to address the board?
Thank you, Mrs. Thomas. At this time, I'm going to open up this portion of the meeting only to address the trim notice. So if anyone would like to come forward, opening public hearing. Seeing that no one would like to come forward and address the board, I'm going to go ahead and close public hearing and turn it over to the superintendent.
Okay, I've got to recommend the following actions, Mr. Chair. First, I'd like to recommend the board approve the tentative required local effort millage of 3.1640 mils as specified in the resolution 2023-2024 trim tentative A.
You hear the recommendation of the superintendent. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a second.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
I recommend the board approve the tentative district school tax discretionary operating millage of 0.7480 mils as specified in resolution 2023-24 trim tentative A.
I have a motion of the superintendent. Do I have a?
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
I recommend the board approve the tentative district discretionary local capital improvement millage of 1.5 mils as specified in resolution 2023-24 trim tentative A.
I have a recommendation of the superintendent. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
I recommend the board approve the tentative district additional voted millage of 1.0 mils as specified in the resolution 2023-24 tentative A.
I have a recommendation of superintendent. Those in, do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Dr. Mills, was that a second?
That was,
Jack, okay, I'm sorry. I have a second from Mr. Kelly. Discussion? Seeing none? Those in favor? Those opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
I recommend the board adopt the 2023-24 tentative budget in the amount of $1,014,699,404.
You've heard the recommendation of the superintendent. Can I get a motion? I got a motion.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Discussion? Seeing none? Those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
I recommend the board adopt resolution 2023-24 trim tentative B and resolution 2023-24 trim tentative C.
You've heard the recommendation of superintendent. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Got a motion? Can I get a second?
Second.
I got a motion and a second. Discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. Appreciate that. We're going to go ahead and move to ESOL report. Mr. David Freeland.
Oh, take your time. It's fine. It's just good to see you today. Mr. Freeland, before you speak, I just want to make sure I make an announcement to those in the room. If you'd like to be an unscheduled speaker or would like to speak towards any item on the consent agenda, you need to have a form filled out that's in the lobby, and you can just put it in the very back next to the window, standing next to our security, Mr. Troy Church. Thank you so much. I'm sorry, Mr. Freeland, go ahead.
No problem. Good evening, Chairman Ingersoll, board members, and Superintendent Prince. I'd like to begin tonight by reading a quote to you by Simon Sinek from a book titled Leaders Eat Last. It's one of the books that we use to train our leaders in the union. The true price of leadership is the willingness to place the needs of others above your own. About the time the agenda for this evening was published, I began receiving calls and emails and Facebook posts from our members regarding the proposed increase for Dr. Prince. At first, I thought that our members must have confused information on the agenda. A 26% increase in a single year seemed unrealistic. After going over the agenda myself, I noticed agenda item 13.3 and saw that our members were indeed correct. I must say a few things regarding the proposed increase in the superintendent's compensation. First of all, in reviewing the proposal and the counties chosen for comparison, I note these are not comparable counties. All but one of the counties have considerably higher tax bases than St. Lucie. All but one of the counties have considerably higher district budgets than St. Lucie. And all but one of the counties pay starting teachers considerably more than St. Lucie. We deal with matched counties often in negotiation, and these are the things we look at when we are choosing counties to compare. If these are matched counties, we will, of course, use them to discuss our members' compensation. And I did include a table. I'm not going to go over it here, but hopefully you all received that email. I also requested to begin negotiations regarding compensation and benefits for our members, and I have been told that we must wait to negotiate until we see how many of our students choose to take advantage of the new voucher system, which seems perfectly reasonable, but then I have to ask why we're proposing to increase anybody's compensation at this time. And it seems also unreasonable that while we wait, and the educators on the front lines have been asked to wait, we're providing an administrator or administrators with large raises. I have members who have not received a total 26% increase in 20 years in the district. How do I justify this increase to our members, especially after 1 year? How many classrooms are going to be staffed by substitutes this year? Veteran teachers have seen a 1 to 3% increase over the past several years. New teachers to the district with no experience are making the same $47,500 as new teachers to the district with 15 years of experience. The superintendent's salary as well as maximum raises were negotiated when Dr. Prince accepted the position. This new agreement flies in the face of provisions that tie the superintendent's increases to what teachers and staff make in the district. It appears, let me back up a second. Tie the superintendent's raise to those of the employees he leads. He no longer has skin in the game, so to speak. This increase also comes with matching increases in fringe and retirement that were not in the proposal. It is important to note that my objections have nothing at all to do with Dr. Prince's performance of his duties. I think that's important to make clear. I've enjoyed working with Dr. Prince, both personally and professionally. He's always willing to listen to the concerns that the union has. This is simply a matter of timing and of what we have going on in the district where money should be spent. It is about what appears to be different rules for administration and our educators doing the work every day with students in the district. And with that, I'd like to close and thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Freeland. CWA report. Thank you for coming tonight, Ms. Vickers.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon,
I'm
ma'am.
standing before you all today. I talked to the board members and all. All we want to be treated fair you know, the little people, 'cause the bus driver, custodian, worker, cafeteria worker, all of us have to, if we buy a loaf of bread, we pay the same price you all pay, with less money. And all I'm asking you all to be fair, we don't even have a contract yet. And look like we should have the contract first before you all go higher. Get the little people up. In Vero County, I'm a bus driver for 47 years. And when people come up with 30 years with me, they make the same pay I make. No different. I'm not trying to knock nobody, but I know the board should look at everybody and be fair with them. Because the board is our boss. They the one recommend us to be high, and you all recommend us to be fired if we do something wrong. So I'm asking, just wait and see. Maybe some money might fall out the sky. I don't know. But I just want everybody to be treated fair. So I feel like we should wait. Nothing against Dr. Prince. Like him. Don't have nothing against him. But the board members should realize that we, the little people, you all should think about us, because you all is our boss. Not we are y'all boss, but you all is our boss, and you should think about the little people and bring them up. Rent high, gas high, everything high. A lot of our co-workers don't even have a place to stay because they don't have the money. So I'm just asking, do the right thing. And I wish you all can find it in your heart to do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Vickers. We're going to move the consent agenda, and before we do, I did make an error, board members, and we're going to move consent agenda item 13.3, proposed amendment to employment agreement with the superintendent of schools, and we're going to move that to school member reports so that recommendation comes from the board rather than from the superintendent himself. When I negotiated this when I talked with Molly about this, I was the one that put this in this area, so this is my mistake, and I'm going to move it to school board members' reports. So when the consent agenda is given tonight, it will not include 13.3, but it will be under school board members' reports separately. Now, at this time, board members, we do need to adopt the consent agenda except for items 13.3, so can I get a motion for that?
Move approval except for item 13.3.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. I have a motion. Do I have a second? Discussion? Seeing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries 5-0. Mr. Superintendent, can I have your recommendation, please?
I recommend the board approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Board members, you heard the recommendation of the superintendent. Can I get a motion? Got a motion?
Second it.
I got a second. Discussion? Seeing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries 5-0. Mr. Superintendent, can I have your report, please?
Okay, first of all, I'm very proud to announce that we have a promotion today, and it's on the board agenda. I'd like to introduce Mr. Frank Sabal. He is going to be taking the Coordinator of Safety and Security. And Frank, I was going to see if you'd come up and say a couple of words. Congratulations, Frank.
Thank you, Dr. Prince, Chairman Ingersoll, and the esteemed members of the board. I am truly humbled at the opportunity to be part of the leadership team with the Safety and Security Department. With me, I bring 35 years of law enforcement and police experience, 20 years as a supervisor. I will be using my knowledge, experience, communication, and tactical skills to ensure that all students, staff, and visitors of the St. Lucie Public Schools are safe. And again, thank you for entrusting me with this crucial responsibility.
Now, Frank, you do have somebody with you this evening? I was
This
gonna
is
say.
my wife, Kim Sable.
All right. You always got to score some points with the wives in the building.
Well, I
so-
love her very much.
Yes, yes.
We just wanted that on record.
Yeah, yes.
That was
Yes,
smart, Frank. That was smart.
yes. So anyway, congratulations, Frank, and I'm so excited for you. Our Safety and Security Department consistently scores, the highest when it comes to, our customer satisfaction, and the customers are our principals. So I wanted to say thank you for representing them.
I appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
All right, congratulations. Okay, just a couple of points that I wanted to make before I turn it over back to the chair. First of all, we did have our new teachers symposium last Tuesday. I wanted to thank the board members that did attend that. We had quite a few people, new teachers to the district. What struck me was also the number of teachers that we had that were veteran teachers that we've recruited here to St. Lucie County, which I do believe is a destination district. So I was really proud. Normally, whenever I asked the folks new to the district to stand up, and we had over 350 folks there, there's about 10 to 15%. And I found that over half of the folks there were coming to us from other districts. So I wanted to thank Denise Rodriguez and her department and Helen Shop in Teaching and Learning for what a great event that was for our new teachers, not just new to teaching, but also new to our district. I also was struck, it was great because I actually recognized some of our graduates that actually graduated in the same class as my son from Treasure Coast High, that are now going to be teachers in our classrooms as part of our Promise program, where we guarantee them jobs once they've graduated. And we have a number of our former students that are going to start their teaching careers in St. Lucie County. I also wanted to mention, too, that our teachers, speaking of returning, are returning this Thursday, August 3rd. Very excited to welcome back all of our employees getting ready for the first day for students, which is Thursday, August 10th. I know board members, you did get, Chris is very efficient, and I noticed you already had it already, but I did pass out the Tunnel of Hope, which is going to be starting at Fair Lawn, I think at 7:50 in the morning. And once again, I know a lot of our board members attend those throughout the district, but it is very exciting to welcome back all of our students. We had over 4,000 students attend our summer program, which was very robust, and our teachers are right back at it starting this Thursday. So with that being said, I want to hope that everybody has a very safe return to our schools. One of our biggest pushes this year is going to be attendance and making sure that students understand the importance of our attendance in school, to be in school each and every day, but not just the students understanding this message, but the parents understand this message. And we're going to be relentless in our efforts to get kids here in school every day. And I'll also be sharing that plan with you at our workshop on August 22nd at 9 a.m. And with that concludes my report. Thank you, Mr. Ingersoll.
Attorney's report.
Thank you, Chair Ingersoll, members of the board, Superintendent Prince. There is no attorney's report tonight.
I'm going to go ahead and we're going to approve, take a recommendation for 19.1, approval of board member travel. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Got a motion? Can I get a second? I got a motion and a second. Discussion? Those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries 5-0. We're going to go ahead, consent agenda, item number 13.3 that was moved. Proposed amendment to employment superintendent. We do have a couple of unscheduled speakers that want to speak to this item, and it is customary of the board to always listen to the community before they vote on a particular item, whether it's this item or any other item. And that's always, we're here to serve the community and listen to the community. So I want to go ahead and call up Miss Vanessa Tillman. And if you don't mind, please state your name for the record, and then you'll have 3 minutes kept by our attorney, Miss Molly Shadding. Ms. Tillman, go ahead, please.
Vanessa Tillman. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Chair Ingersoll, board members, and Superintendent Prince, and our viewing audience. I come tonight to speak to you first as a taxpayer, secondly as a citizen of this county, then also as a retired educator. You've heard comments already about the superintendent's proposed salary, and I called each of you. I am deeply concerned. This is the first time you've seen me since I've been retired. So you know, I must have missed some sleep thinking about this, okay? And of course, I heard it said that it costs so much to go and if we were gonna do a recruitment plan or whatever the terminology as we look for a search for a superintendent. Well, you think back, you save money because you didn't have to do one for this one. That's number one. And secondly, I know superintendents are being fired, they're quitting, and a whole lot of other things. But as we do research and surveys and different things, exit interviews, it always tells us that people leave not necessarily because of the money, but how they have been treated. I've done exit interviews. I've even been on superintendent search committees. We've done it here before. But I ask you as board members who are people who are our taxpayers' money, you look after it to make sure it's done properly and done well. I ask you to know that timeliness is something that's important, just as President Freeland said. The timeliness that you do something is utmost important. And if you're the stewards and good stewards of the money, this is not the time. I want you to remember, you are here because we voted you in. You represent us. Now, you have an obligation to make sure you are going to be good stewards of the monies that the taxpayers here in St. Lucie County has. We've invested in you. We are supporting you. We are hoping that you will make the right decision. I do appreciate each of you taking the time to speak to me when I called you, but I also want you to think about things that you heard Ms. Vickers say and the things that you heard Mr. Ingersoll say. They don't even have a contract. You got to look at the image that you are portraying to the community, your taxpayers, and your employees. Because you know what? If you don't have a bus driver, a cafeteria worker, a custodian, teachers, who do you have? Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mrs. Tillman. Mr. Robert Brown, I'm assuming that you want to speak on this item, sir? Mr. Brown, you want to speak on this item?
Yes, I do.
Okay, please do state your name for the record.
My name is Robert Brown. I'm a member, I live in St. Lucie County. Normally, not a lot of things get me up to come out and speak, to be honest with you. I normally watch these things on the TV and kind of go along with the program. But
Mr. Brown, if you don't mind, can you move the microphone up a little bit so we can hear you?
again, normally I watch these things on TV and kind of go along with the program and happy to see what's going on. And I care about the county. I care about the school board. I don't have any children in school anymore. I'll state that fact. But we really need to pay attention to where we're going and how we're doing this. I see a lot of the teachers, and we're having trouble finding teachers to begin with. And the teachers are not getting paid what they should get paid. That's fair enough. And the fact that we are planning on doing what we're doing here, and I know a lot of minds are made up already. Some of the words that we say are not going to change any minds. But I'm just asking you to really think about what we're doing here, because this will send a message that we care about other things than, care about more things than other things. And we should care about all things. At the end of the day, we should be taken care of from the very top to the very low. And we need to make sure we do a good job of that all over. I'm looking at the board members, and I know most of them, some of them probably don't remember me, but I've been around St. Lucie County for a while. I retired from the United States Army, and I've been living here over 30 years now. And I just want us to be able to make sure we're doing the right things when we come to situations like this. And I said, most of the times I just kind of say, that's fair enough and okay. But I needed to come out and say something because I'm not on board with what we're getting ready to do. So I just wanted you guys to know that, and I'll leave it in your hands to go from there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Okay, board members, at this point, I do need a recommendation or a motion. I have a approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second? Okay, discussion? Mrs. Richardson, did you have?
I do have something to say with reference to,
Mrs. Richardson, your microphone,
I'm going
please.
to fix it, believe me. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me? Okay. So with reference to agenda item 13.3, which is the superintendent's contract revision, I have a couple of concerns and thoughts. Heavy lifters, I'd like to give some definitions here, what it means to me. Heavy lifters. My definition of a heavy lifter and a frontline hero as it relates to the St. Lucie public school system is anyone who comes in direct contact with one of our students or works on the campus. These heavy lifters are our teachers, our bus drivers, cafeteria workers, support staff, maintenance staff, or educators. So I don't want to leave anybody out. Anybody that works on the campus, I consider you heavy lifters and or frontline heroes. I have been receiving phone calls, and we have all received emails concerning the superintendent's salary increase. This is not just a base pay increase, because this increase triggers other increases. Therefore, what starts out as a $50,000 increase, when you add all the other benefits that has increased because of this change. In other words, there are some benefits in the contract that's going to increase because of this change in the package. And it could cost the board, the district, or taxpayers somewhere in the amount of maybe $80,000 when it's all said and done. So we have to look at the total compensation package as we are in fact changing or amending the total package. We must be wise stewards of our taxpayers' money, dollars. I do not think that giving a first-year superintendent a $50,000 increase in base salary is being fiduciarily responsible. I truly believe that this money would be better off in the hands of our teachers, or heavy lifters, or frontline heroes, so that they can use it to purchase supplies and materials for their students rather than this money coming out of their pockets for these expenses. The core business of the district is teaching and learning. So this money would be better spent on our students. That's why we are here. We are here because of our students. We cannot go back to 2015 because Wayne Gent was at the helm from 2015 to 2022. Any and all credits for any gains or losses in the district goes to Mr. Gent because he was the superintendent. This was his vision, his work. It would not be right to share this with anyone, even though we work as a team. The buck stopped with Mr. Gent from 2015 to 2022. All responsibilities were on his shoulders. It would be robbery to take this from him. So I'm saying that Dr. Prince has only been the superintendent for 1 year, and any salary increases or increased consideration should go back to the last year that he's been the superintendent, which is the last year. With this in mind, I cannot wrap my mind around and in good conscience consider giving a $50,000 base salary increase to any employee who has had a position for just 1 year because the board wants to match the superintendent's salary in other districts. As I said, this last year was a learning curve for our superintendent. And if and when he has proven himself by raising the school district academic performance, then I think that at that time, we could and should entertain a substantial salary increase. I will agree to the salary increase in the original contract that states a raise to match the district's employees and not more than the teachers. I think that that salary increase would be fair enough. Those are my thoughts. Those are my concerns. Thank you.
Chairman Ingersoll.
Dr. Mills, please.
I want to start out by saying that I believe Dr. Prince should have a raise. I think in this past year, he's done a good job in helping to not only maintain but to raise our comparison with the state and with our students. What I am not in agreement with is what our attorney, Attorney Shaddock, has proposed that we negotiate in order to match current market conditions. I have, too, looked at the market conditions, and I see a different picture than what has been presented to us. I've done my research on what our attorney has submitted to the board for consideration. And what I see in the numbers, it shows a wide range of base salaries for Florida districts of similar student populations. So in my conversation with Attorney Shaddock, I expressed my deep concerns with a salary increase of more than, and I felt this figure was very liberal, of no more than $25,000. What I was told by our attorney was that she was going to speak to each of the board members and come up with an amount that would basically try to satisfy all of us. So needless to say, I was shocked at a $50,000 increase in 1 year of service as superintendent. And also in comparing the chart from the Florida Department of Education, $50,000 to me is extreme. It is a 26% raise. And so there's many different factors. We heard factors this evening from both of our union reps as well as others. And we've read several emails. But before we got any of this, I made it very clear what I thought was reasonable and fair in order to bring up our superintendent's salary to compete with other districts. Any raise amount above this to me is extreme, and it's irresponsible, frankly, with our taxpayer dollars. And so what I did when I looked at that chart, I compared similar populations of student amounts and what the superintendents were getting in other districts. And I came up with a total of 8 districts with similar student populations. Our superintendent's salary is currently $190,000. 3 of the districts that have superintendent, they make less currently, the superintendent of those districts, than our superintendent, which is making 190. One of their superintendents in another district is making 154,000. Another's making 160,000. Another's making 174,000. I think we should consider, if we're going to consider market value and consider competing with other districts, we need to look at all of the different superintendent salaries that have the same amount of students that we have here in St. Lucie County. It's important, and I reemphasize, our superintendent should get a raise, but I also reemphasize that we can't do anything that is just extreme, you know? And it's already been mentioned, timing. You know, timing is important, and we want to make sure that everyone feels as if they are being treated fairly. And that is what I've heard people come up and say, just treat us fairly. When I look at our teachers here in the district, and that they're not making, our beginning teachers, they're not making more than $50,000 per year. And I look at also our support staff, such as our bus drivers and others. Our bus drivers, our current beginning salary for bus drivers is basically minimum wage. It's $15 an hour. If we compare bus drivers in our neighborhood counties, Martin County is paying $17 an hour, and Indian River is paying $17 an hour. So if we're going to compare and try to match people, we need to do it across the board. So I would like to avoid the appearance, any appearance of evil, any appearance of corruptness. And the $50,000 tell me that that is just the appearance of evil. So no one is saying that he doesn't deserve a raise, board. I'm just surprised that this proposal was for $50,000, and I certainly cannot agree with such a steep raise. So I'm saying that we must be reasonable, practical, and accountable to our taxpayers and other employees. Good HR practice does not give this huge amount of what has been proposed and not save something over for the different promotions and raises that will come in the future. I would even go as far as to say, if we thought of $25,000 raise, for example, we can revisit it within a year based on how things are doing. But that is half, and I made it very clear. So I feel that my words and comments to our attorney was not considered. Now, I've also looked at what our neighborhood counties are paying their superintendents. And what stood out to me was Martin County. And this 240 that we're talking about raising raising the superintendent's salary, I think it's more so to outmatch Martin County. But we're not Martin County. We don't have the taxes that Martin County comes in. We don't have what they have. And so we shouldn't be competing with them. If we really are doing comparable market value, then let's do that. And if we raise our superintendent's salary to a certain percentage, he will be in the top of those 8 districts, among the top. He will have at least 4 others, if not 5, other superintendents with approximately the same number of students. He will be making more than them. So as it's already been said, it's nothing against Dr. Prince. He did not ask for this, but someone did ask for it, and someone is being appeased by this 240, and it doesn't look good. So I'm asking the board, let's reconsider this. Let's really think about the people and the situation and everything, and not just throw this number here and say we're doing it to compare with other districts in the state of Florida. Let's do it right, and let's do it timely.
Dr. Mills, I just have a question. You referred back to your numbers. Are you using the numbers that Ms. Shattuck gave you?
Yes, I am. I'm using the numbers that she submitted to us. All of the board got the same numbers.
From the FDOE?
Yes, sir. And this is what I found, was there is 3 superintendents that have in the 40,000s of students in their district that are making less than our superintendent is getting right now today. And that doesn't mean I say don't give him any more, but that means we need to consider all the numbers, not just the higher numbers of the 250 and the 255 and that type of thing. And definitely we should not be trying to compare ourselves with Martin County if that be the case. We just need to do things right and do it timely.
I understand that. But when you looked at that chart, did you notice that our number was higher than the chart was, or was higher or lower? But also the numbers that were given to us by Ms. Shattuck weren't the same numbers on the chart?
Ms. Shattuck first gave us a group of numbers that I think was 2021, 2022. And then she gave us a second list when she was able to find it, that was 22, 23.
Yes, ma'am.
And so I went by the one that's 22, 23, from the Florida Department of Education.
Yes, ma'am.
And this is what I found.
Yes, ma'am. I 100% agree. And when I got that list, I was like, oh, we're doing well, just like you did. But when the motion came forward from Mr. Kelly, it was fair market value. And that's what we're trying to do with all our employees. And we need to make sure that our teachers are getting paid well. We need to make sure that our bus drivers are getting paid well. We need to make sure our support staffs are making sure. That's got to be a priority of St. Lucie County. That is our priority. But at the same time, we also want to make this a one and done deal too. And when I got those numbers from Ms. Shattuck, I noticed that Martin County's number was not correct. And then I noticed a couple other counties were not correct. And when we talk about fair market value, and this is the example that I use with Mrs. Shattuck, because this is what I asked her to do, is when you look at fair market value, you don't go and look at last year. Let's talk about your home real quick, just as an illustration. You're going to sell your home. You don't look at last year's fair market value. You look at what's happening today, what's happening recently. Because if you looked at last year, you could sell your house at a lower market value. And that's what that was, because right now what we're seeing is a trend of superintendents leaving the job. We're seeing a trend of superintendents getting cherry-picked out and going to other districts. And this isn't about Dr. Prince. This is about the next superintendent. If we were to hire the next superintendent, what would be the fair market value? And that's what we're looking at, and that's the discussion. Because when we hire a teacher and we look at all the experienced teachers we got, we want them to be treated fair at a fair market rate and making sure that they're going to come to St. Lucie County and be treated right. And that's starting off with the superintendent too. I also looked at the deputies and assistant superintendents to make sure that they were treated fair, because we have to look out for everybody. Mr. Kelly beat me to it, but that was the recommendation. So when Ms. Shattuck called me and says, how do you want me to pursue this with Dr. Prince, I asked her to say, please take a range. Take a range from all the board members and get one that's going to accommodate a majority of us. And that's what she did.
No, that's not what was done with me. She knows my range, and it comes nowhere near my range.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's what she did with, I don't know who all the board members are. Maybe I'm not a board member. But with that price that ended up coming before us for $50,000 is outrageous in my book.
Yes,
at
ma'am.
this time. And I made that very clear. So it was nobody was considering my comments at that time. Before anyone else gave their different opinions, it was between she and I and the board at that time.
Yes, ma'am. So what was asked is each board member was to get a range, whatever your range was to be. She called and got my opinion, your opinion, Ms. Hawley's, Mr. Kelly's, Mrs. Richardson's, and I told her to take the average of where we could do it.
I would have been much more satisfied if that had been done, but that had not been done.
I'm going to say that that was not my range either, because my range was under your range. So if my range was under your range, then somebody must have been past $60,000.
No, it wasn't the average. I was looking for the mean.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Somebody must have been higher than $50,000 for us to get a mean of $50,000, because that was definitely not my range.
Yes.
Just a quick correction, Mr. Chair. I'm
Yes.
not the one that made the motion to have Molly look at fair market value. I didn't even make a motion. I just threw out a number, and I
Oh.
got to say, I was in your area of $25,000 to $30,000, and I threw that out without going through or knowing what the other districts were. I take into consideration what you're saying, but I didn't make that motion. That was made by Mrs. Holly, which was the right motion to make, I thought. And in regard to when I spoke to our attorney, we were asked to give a range and everything, and then after I gave her that range, she gave me corrections on some of the material we had, and some of the material they had that you read, those are erroneous, ma'am. They're much higher. And I could name 3, 4, I should have brought it with me, much, much higher. So if that motion wasn't made tonight, I'm going to be quite frank with you, I would have made another motion to do the 50,000, but 25 this year and 25 next year. However, I did listen to the people who spoke to me today, and one person said, no matter what you do, Mr. Kelly, be fair. And to be fair, and talked about the teachers. And I want to make this known right now about that. And this is really not about, well, it is about our superintendent, but in a way it's not. This is business. This is a business decision by the board. And I take into consideration what you said. I really thought about that. I had a lot to think about today. I want to get this out that no one on this board thinks that the teachers are any less than anyone that works in this building or anywhere in the district. We all know the teachers are our front line. Everyone knows that. Front line, the workers that work with them, that keep the schools clean, they're number one, okay? However, the guy that drives the bus that they're in, and he drives a big bus, and it's a bigger bus than Martin County, more than twice as big. And I know you think I'm the guy that talks about that, but I do. They're 1/3 the size of us, and their superintendent makes a lot more money. It isn't just that district, it's others. He's driving a bus that those teachers are on, and I want them to be safe and the best. I don't know anyone that is more on the side of the teachers than Dr. John Prince. We've had meetings with him, and you've all been with him, and we talked about the referendum, where the money was going to go. If he could, he'd put the whole darn thing into the teachers. Most of the money does go to them. He brought up the referendum again, and I'm defending him, not defending him, but I'm telling you what a good guy he is. And I don't agree with him on everything. I certainly don't. We have our disagreements. This new referendum, he wants to bring it back 2 years earlier because he wants to get more money for the teachers. Our teachers get more money than our neighboring teachers because our referendum, we have a 70% of the people in the county, almost 70%, agree that they're doing a great job. And again, the administration is great. Look at all the people we have working for us. Dr. Prince, we have a whole bunch of doctorates that work for us. Dr. Helen Wild, we got Dr. Donna Mills sitting up here with us. I look at that very, very highly, and it's worth quite a bit when you have that doctor in front of it. We got a great staff, but it's the teachers. They're the ones that made us number one in this area. They are, and we know that, and no one is more behind that than Dr. John Prince. That's why I have a lot of trust in him, and I believe in him, and he knows that. He knows that they're the fighters. They're ones out there. And it's true, when you were in the meetings, you all know That's what he said. That's why he wants the referendum back earlier, because he wants our teachers, if you pay higher, you're going to get the better teachers, and that's what he wants. Do the teachers, does he work harder than the teachers? My wife said I have to, no, he doesn't. Nobody works harder than the teachers, and I'm just saying that. And I'm as close to the insurance that they pay than anyone. My wife, my daughter, my family, everyone. I have so many teachers I couldn't tell you. And the insurance, it's terrible. He's right. And he's working on that too right now. That's one of his top priorities, and you know that. And we're going to hear about it. Last year, we thought we had a win because we kept the insurance at the same. We thought that was a win. I tell you, I had to drop my wind insurance on my house this year, $8,000. I had it. I can't afford it. I'm not a wealthy guy. I can't do it. And I got a new roof on my house, but I got that because I dropped the insurance. So there's a lot of things in consideration, but the one thing, and I'll be quiet, this is a business decision, and I'm going to go along with Troy on this one. If the motion wasn't made, you and I would have had something to talk about here. But it's a business decision. It's about the district and about our leadership. And this may be, and you said at the last meeting, Troy, you said 3 or 4 years down the line, this is going to make a difference. We made a mistake when we hired him. We should have hired him higher than we did. That's our fault. And what I was told today, no matter what we do, I was told today by a person to be fair, okay? What we're paying Dr. Prince, especially for his advocacy for the teachers and what he wants to do here, what we're paying him is not fair. He should be making more money comparatively to the other districts that we have looked at. He's done a great job. It isn't this first year. He's been here for 8 years. He was part of the whole thing with Mr. Gent to bring this district where it is right now. Him and Helen Wild and many others. He was part of that. So that's what I think. I think it's a business decision. I did think about it. Dr. Mills, your point is well taken with me. I'd rather do it 50, 25 and 25, but you know what? We're just going to go through it again this year, and it's what's fair for that individual. It's a good business decision for our district, for what we do for the future, and what we value, and how well we want to reward the people who take us there. Our teachers are the best. John Prince is great. I will support that motion.
Dr. Mills?
I look at, I consider what everyone is saying here. And I don't think anyone on this board is weighing our decisions based on who Dr. Prince is. Because I too believe that although Wayne Gent was the superintendent for the past 7 years, he had a powerful team with him to get us to where we were, to where we are now. This has nothing to do with who Dr. Prince is and what he's done. This is a business decision. And I think it's utterly ridiculous as a business decision to put out $50,000 as a raise. I did mention the $25,000 and then reconsidering next year as we look at how things are going, because we still have areas that we need improvement in as well in this district. But even it's a bad HR move, in my opinion. So I'm looking at it from a business aspect. I think we're blessed to have Dr. Prince here as our superintendent. I have no qualms about that. But I am more reasonable, I believe, in the amount, this huge amount that's just been thrown out and proposed to us, to me is absolutely ridiculous. And we have to be able to give an account as a board and to our community, our taxpayers, et cetera, who we are. David Freeman sent us his chart on some of these other districts that we're trying to compete with. And, you know, they're getting more tax dollars. They have more to do what they are doing. And they're paying their teachers more as well than what we're paying ours. And our surrounding county, I think someone said something about they were paying less for their teachers. That's not true. They're paying the amount that we're paying. We're all competing with that $47,000, $48,000. But some of these other places that we're trying to compare who are paying their superintendents 255, 250, that area, which is, I think, 3 of them out of all that I looked at. So, we're just looking at being more practical at this time, and I just could never feel comfortable with the $50,000 raise, 26% raise for our superintendent all at once, with other factors. I'm not even going to go through the factors again because I've heard it from different ones, but I could never agree with that at this time.
Dr. Mills, if I can, and I understand because you and I were on the same level here, and I could have very, very reasonably had gone to the 25 and 25. The difference is for me is what Troy is bringing up, and I'm saying it's a business decision. If he quit, and he could, I mean, we've got people that work for us, and you say this, a raise procreates other raises. We have people that work for us that are willfully underpaid. I talked to other districts. I got off the phone with another member from another district at 4 o'clock, speaking to somebody. They're out there all the time trying to steal. There's at least 8 or 9 districts now looking for a superintendent that he could make much more money at. If he quit tomorrow, and I know, and we can labor this all day. I spoke, and he can't. Somebody can come along. These people call up and they make money by stealing people from other districts, and they can't. He's somebody that they would look for. If they did it tomorrow, and we had to go out and get another superintendent, first of all, it causes chaos. It takes a long. I've been through it with city managers. It causes chaos. I'd have to pay the headhunter. I have to pay go through this whole search thing. We would have to pay at least, and I think I'm being on the low side. Sir, Troy, I know, I don't know if you did this, we'd have to pay somewhere around $280,000 to replace that man. That's the figures that I've come up with, man. And that's why I propose give it to him today, but I almost want your way. I want you to know.
Mr. Kelly.
Mrs. Richardson, go ahead.
Yeah, I would have to say that, I hear what you're saying, Mr. Kelly, but again, I think, that we have people here on the inside, just the same way we promoted Dr. Prince. I think that there are people here that we could promote from within to step into that superintendent shoe as well. So I'm not too worried about spending money for headhunters or whatever it is to find a superintendent, because I think we have stellar employees here who I think could step into that as well. So, and when I say that, you mentioned about not the 70 years or whatever. Even though Dr. Prince, and this has nothing necessarily to do with Dr. Prince, again, I'm like everybody else, I like him, I think he's doing a good job, but he's only been in this seat for 1 year. 1 year as the superintendent. He may be here for 7 years, 10 years, 20 years. He's only been superintendent for 1 year. And that's what he needs to, that's what we are looking at, the basis for this increase. It's a superintendent's contract. So that's what we should be looking at, I think, in order to rate or give this increase. It's the 1 year that he's been superintendent. The other times that he's been here, he's been the deputy superintendent, and he has been, he even said it himself, the worker bee. He does, like everybody else here, we delegate, we give, and we have people, employees that actually does the work. Yes, the responsibility falls on his shoulders. Yes, it does. And yes, he has to work. But he's not doing this alone. He has stellar employees here in the district that works as well. So again, $50,000 plus, and this is money. It's actual money. It's taxpayers' money. We have to look at that. Even $25,000, I think, for the first year. Who gets $25,000? I remember when I used to work, I used to get a 5 cents increase an hour or 10 cents an hour increase. Am I dating myself? I never got a $25,000 increase. So I'm just saying that we need to, like everybody is saying, we need to be fair We need to be fair. Our teachers, again, are the heavy lifters, our bus drivers, these people, if we are going to give this kind of money out, then we need to use that same percentage then and make sure that we give everybody the same kind. Be fair. And that's all I'm saying. So I would like to say that when everybody has spoken, that we table this and look at this again. Maybe tonight is not the time to make a motion to give this increase. Thank you.
Go ahead, Dr. Mills.
Again, 25,000 is a lot of money. So it's not like we're saying, oh, don't give him, a huge amount of raise. That is a huge raise. That's 12, 13% of his salary. So we are looking at, when you say, and we shouldn't be concerned, first of all, I've spoken with Dr. Prince between him and I, and he has assured me, he's not the one that brought this up, he assured me that he's going to be with us for years to come. Okay? So he's not the one that brought this up. This was brought up by the board, and he's not asking for $50,000 from this board, and I don't think we'll lose him. And if we did lose him, nobody's irreplaceable. As much as I care about the work he's done, he's not irreplaceable. I'm not irreplaceable. None of us on this board is irreplaceable, or up here, up top here. So I don't go by fear and concern and, oh, if he leaves, we're going to end up with, this is stuff that we're thinking all in the future, and it's good to consider it. It is good to consider. But we can't live on that and then give this huge amount trying to keep him. But he's not the one that's saying, I need a huge raise. He's not saying that. This is not, he has nothing to do with this. This came from up here. And so we need to do something about this and make sure that we control what came up here that is not only not business, but it's not practical.
Dr. Mills, I hope you're correct. Tom Brady said he was never going to leave Boston, too. Never going to leave Boston, he said, okay? So I hope you're correct, but Mrs. Mills, it's hard to argue with you because I like you, you know that. But the problem is that it is a business decision. It would cost. I am absolutely sure whether you got somebody from within or without, our fault, we did not give him enough money when he started. Would cost $280,000 in that area to get somebody else, and he may not be as good. He probably won't be as good as Dr. Prince. I understand what you're saying. Tom Brady isn't in Boston anymore, and he's making a lot more money.
All righty. In 2020, the minimum salary of a teacher was $38,375. It increased to $44,600. And then today we're at $47,500. I think the board has tried to be fair in regards to that effort. Last year, hourly employees went up to $15 an hour. Some people increased by 26.9%, 25%, 26%, 25%. Some went up 40%. I think we were fair. I think this board has a history of trying to be fair. I think the bus drivers range, Dr. Mills, in St. Lucie County ranges from $17.25 to $28.24 an hour. I think.
We're saying we're saying beginner bus drivers
beginners
are
bus drivers
$15
is
an hour.
$17.24 or $17.25.
Not according
Or
to.
$17.52, I'm sorry, $17.52.
Not according to what I've been told.
Okay. Well,
That's kind of your word and my word, but what is the word?
I will
what is
get you,
that?
I will, we'll
But
get
even if it is.
Yeah, but I'm just letting you know.
$17, what is $17 an hour? I mean, people make different
I agree. I agree.
ranges and so forth. But please don't take $15 and $17 an hour and act like that's giving them a whole lot more. It may be what we can afford.
But
And so therefore, we need to look at it across the board. What can we afford and what looks like it's being fair to all?
Exactly, and that's what I'm trying to demonstrate is we're working towards getting more into the hands of the heavy lifters, as we say. everybody. So that is where we're at. This is years of experience saying this is something that we should do and we need to do. Again, this was brought up by the board. Mrs. Hawley, myself, I was shocked that she brought it up, but I was going to bring it up regardless. So we do have a motion on the table. We have a second. Any further discussion?
Can you call the roll, please, on that one?
Mrs. Harrison, please, could you please give me a roll call?
I'm sorry, what are we calling the roll for? Just so that
We
I
have a
understand.
motion and we have a second.
What, the motion is for the increase, the $50,000, is that what we're calling the roll for?
Yes, ma'am. Consent agenda item 13.3.
I would like for us to table this. I would like for this to be tabled.
Yes, ma'am, I understand, but there is a motion on the floor and there's a second. We're calling the question.
Well, I would agree with her to table it if we.
We
if
can
are
table
so-
this.
It can still be tabled, even if there's a motion. Well,
Okay,
let's ask
we can
our
table
attorney.
it. Do I have a motion to table? And what do I need? 3 votes?
So if you want to table the item, you would need a motion to table it, to postpone it. It's usually done to a specific time frame, like a motion to postpone it to, for example, your next business meeting, and it would need a second or else it dies, and then it would need to be voted on, and it would pass by a majority.
Okay, so I have a question. Now, if this is tabled, are we tabling the $50,000 to go back and revise it?
Mrs.
and look at-
Richardson, we got to get it tabled first. So
Okay.
if I have a motion to table it by Mrs. Richardson, I have a second by Dr. Mills. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, let's do a roll call on the motion of the table.
Motion to table, Dr. Mills,
Yay.
Mrs. Holly.
Oh, yeah, vote to table, yes.
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 No. Okay, we're going back to the regular motion. We have a motion, we have a motion and a second. Seeing no further discussion, go ahead and call the roll call, Mrs. Harrison.
Dr. Mills,
I vote not to raise it to $50,000.
That's a no.
The raise, that's a no.
Mrs. Holly. Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Mrs. Richardson,
No.
Mr. Ingersoll.
Yes. Motion carries 3-2. School board members report, Mrs. Richardson.
I would like to thank you, Chairman Ingersoll.
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to preface this by saying we have incredible principals. Tonight, I'm going to reference a few. I have had the opportunity to meet with Principal Russ Day at Northport K-8. And if you have never met him and don't know him, he is an extremely kind and caring person. It is very obvious that he loves being a principal. He loves his staff, his students, and what's more important is that they love him. I popped in to say hello and to let him know how much I appreciate his streaming the honor roll ceremony. I think it's a great idea, especially for parents who cannot attend. He told me that he personally signs every certificate. Parents, you can view this ceremony on the school's Facebook page. I love the energy of his presentation. As I was leaving, one of the school's business partner, Mrs. Pat Orlandi and Pastor Orlandi from the First United Methodist, along with their youth group, they were donating 150 backpacks to the schools. She told me how much she loves and supports Northport K-8. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the Mrs. Orlandi, Pastor Orlandi, for being a part of the village that support Northport. We truly appreciate your love and support. Did I say what a caring and kind principal Mr. Raste is? Well, he did not want me to leave empty-handed, he kept offering me anything he could think of, and this spoke volumes to me. Principal Ross Stay and his staff at Northport, I wish you the best year ever. I visited Dale Casson, and I have to say that the campus is looking great. They have a new roof and is in the process of installing a new AC system. There is a lot of physical changes that's occurring at Dale Casson's, and I hope that this will translate into even greater things with their academics. White City Elementary was another school I visited over the summer. The district is in the process of installing new lighting in the hallways to replace the old rusted, broken ones. The maintenance team is going to paint the rusted ceiling in the corridors, and they are in the process of replacing the carpet to vinyl composite tile in the classrooms, to name some of the changes that we have to look forward to in the coming months. I'm very excited about the renovations planned for White City. I want to take this opportunity to thank families of the Treasure Coast for working with the students to make raised bed planters for their gardening project. There are good things happening at White City Elementary. Dan McCarty. I visited Dan McCarty Middle, in particular their gymnasium. What a transformation. It's like night and day. I was once told that if you close your eyes and open it, you should not be able to tell what side of town or what school you are in. They should all look the same. I'm happy to say that when I closed my eyes and when I opened my eyes, I thought I was in Palm Point. From where I was standing, it looked good. I spoke with Principal Stubbs, and she told me that they already had a graduation in the gym and some other celebrations. She even showed me pictures. I personally could not believe that these were taken in the gym. We talked about the business partners and all the support that they're giving, that is the business partners giving to the school. I want to say thank you to our community. Principal Stubbs was detailing all the good things that are happening at Dan McCarty. I did not have pencil and paper, so I was not able to keep up. After talking with her, I know she, Dan McCarty, is going to exceed her expectations and goals that she set for the upcoming year. I see nothing but good things happening at Dan McCarty. The sky's the limit. I would like to take the time to thank our maintenance staff, Mr. O'Leary, our site maintenance staff, our maintenance staff, for all the work that you've put in to get our schools ready for our students. I know that it must be a labor of love because it's very, very, very hot outside. And so I just wanted to say how much I appreciate you. Finally, I'm going to take my time with this recognition because this is why we are here. We are here for our students. And I would like to recognize the Treasure Coast High School Air Force Junior ROTC, who presented at the Folds of Honor Gala held in Chicago at the Navy Pier. The Chicago chapter paid for our students' travel. They were accompanied by Master Sergeant Joyce. I want to thank, he left, Principal Smith for sharing the video with me. I was in tears after watching it. This was a remembrance for our POW and MIAs. I would like to recognize Cadet Chief Master Sergeant Ethan Kolaskos, Cadet Captain Sarah Sherry, Cadet Major J.D. Minor, Cadet Major David Richard. And there was a cadet that was reading. They did not say their names, and so whoever that reader was, an amazing, amazing reader. They were precise, they were poised, and they executed their duty with excellence. This was one of those, you just have to see it. If anybody wants to see the link, check with Principals Smith or myself. I have to say that I'm proud of this program, the ROTC program, and to say that I'm proud is an understatement. They represented St. Lucie County School District with excellence, all under the leadership and instruction of Colonel James Golden, Chief Master Sergeant Jeffrey Barnes, and Master Sergeant Jason Joyce. Thank you so very much for all that you do for students. To all our bus drivers, our cafeteria staff, maintenance staff, our support staff, teachers, and students, I just want to say welcome back. Thank you.
Mr. Kelly?
Just welcome back, teachers, students, everyone, support staff, everyone, and no report. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Ingersoll. I want to take this opportunity, after listening to all of the comments that we've received over the past several days and this evening as well, to say that the action that the board took tonight, in my eyes, sets a precedent for what we want St. Lucie Public Schools to be at all levels. We took action with our leader tonight, and in reality, we on the board has two employees, the superintendent and the board attorney. By setting the precedent that we did tonight, we are sending the clear message to Superintendent Prince, my apologies. We're sending the message to Superintendent Prince and his negotiating teams that we want the best. We've always wanted the best for all of our staff, anyone that's employed by St. Lucie Public Schools. So please, I hope you will hear it that way, see it that way, and I know that Superintendent Prince heard it that way, and that going forward in the negotiation that will be coming forth later this month, that same care, that same business-like approach to it will be carried out at the direction of the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hollies. Dr. Mills?
I am extremely disappointed in that vote tonight. Okay? I think it's absolutely insane what we did this evening. And I'm not surprised, because I figured if my voice is not, and my comments is not heard, and then this figure that comes up, 240, to raise it $50,000, I knew that there had to be 3 people that strongly felt as if it should be given. I want to say this. We can have the greatest words that we can speak. We can convince so many people with our words, but people look at action. That's what we need to look at. People need to look at the action, not the words. So if I have very few words, but I have great actions, that is important. And I want the community to understand that. Because what happened tonight, in my opinion, was not fair. I'm finished with my comments.
Thank you, Dr. Mills.
Mr., can I say something before you speak? Is that okay?
Sure, go ahead.
Board meeting?
Yeah, I mean, the protocols are, you had.
I'm sorry,
But
but
good,
is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead. I'll give you an opportunity.
Okay, and I, when it came to board comments, I too, I had this written down, but even while I was speaking, if I didn't have this written down, I wouldn't know what to say, because I too was very shocked at this too, Dr. Mills. So I have to say that I totally agree with you. And what I did want to say is that I want to make sure that when we come to the bargaining table for the teachers and their salaries, that we know that we are going to be fair. We have to be fair. No excuses. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I appreciate that. Again, I echo what Ms. Holly says, is that this sends a clear message that we want to negotiate and make sure everything is fair market value. I had the opportunity to receive phone calls and texts. I received 2 calls, 3 or 4 texts, and 4 or 5 emails, and I appreciate everyone that voiced their opinions tonight. Thank you for coming out. We are welcoming back for a new school year, and it's going to be exciting. Just seeing the new teachers that we have. The vacancy is at a lower number than it has in the past, so we're doing well. Mrs. Rizal, I wasn't going to say this, but I'm going to say this out in public, but I didn't think I heard you right, because you said that we wouldn't have to do a national search in your comments because we have qualified staff. But a year and a half ago, you were one of the few dissenting votes that didn't want to go. And I'm not going to debate this now.
No, but if you're going to say something, Chairman Ingersoll, then, and address that, then I need to respond.
Well, go
because,
ahead, because I really want
go
that
ahead.
clarified.
Go
No,
ahead.
ma'am, because I'm
Finish
just,
what you're
what I
saying.
heard a year and a half ago is like, oh, we do a national search and this, and all of a sudden it's changed.
I'm saying because the national search is going to cost money, so that was the reason why we didn't do a national search. So I'm saying, in lieu of money, okay, seeing that we got a exemplary superintendent, in lieu of money, we will also consider raising up somebody from within as well. That is also a consideration. Not that that's what we need to do. I'm saying that we do have exemplary staff. We do have employees here who could fit the bill as well. So that's a consideration. That's what I said. That's what I meant.
Okay, because this
And
was.
yes, I was against it.
Yes, ma'am, I know you were. And this was the succession plan that we had. So what I'm saying is, we have board members up here that have experience, and I appreciate the experience of the board members to see the future and be able to act on it. And I appreciate the community having faith in us. And I appreciate the support that has been given to us. And I want to thank those that are actively in our community advocating for the children. And I appreciate everyone from the top to the bottom. And that concludes tonight's meeting. Thank you so much.